Just makes me breathe deep.
All right, Miss Rhonda, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Ty, you ready?
Always.
Timeout. Tyler, who are we sitting down with on this fine Monday today?
Kevin, man, round number 2 today, brother. This is good stuff. We have the Rhonda Destino, the president of the Rochester Commissary, y'all. And Rhonda, I want to get to know you real quick, and this is probably one of my favorite questions to really dumb it down and to humanize any leader from Rochester to Dallas, okay? And your answer might be a past life. I don't know about what you've done lately with the subject. But if we're going through a fast food drive-through, for one, what fast food are we going through and what are you ordering?
Wow, what a hard question.
Fast food.
Yes, I enjoy a fried chicken sandwich. So wherever we're headed, that usually is on a menu. And so that's probably what I would be selecting. I like a real basic lettuce, some type of condiment, and a nice bun.
You mean a hard roll, you mean? You guys say it different up there, because when I moved up there, I was like, where are these rolls that are hard?
Yes, right. A hard roll, yes.
And what kind of sauce you got to have some sauce on there, right?
Yeah, so I actually, we have a lot of members that have some good sauces, but if I'm in a drive-through situation, I'm just going with mayo.
Okay.
All right. I love it. All right, so we're sitting in the drive-thru and your favorite tune happens to come on and you lean over to turn it up. What's your favorite tune?
Oh my gosh. And I'm going, nostalgia because of the drive-through days, because I rarely hit one nowadays, but any Bare Naked Ladies album, we're starting way back like grade 9. I feel like I could get into the mood of eating some drive-through with memories of being younger, just jamming out to BNL.
The old apartment, like, this is where we used to live.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly right. That whole album. Gordon, right? And
the next one, I had to print off the lyrics. The one that goes real fast, like in 7th grade. Yeah. I would hot like a zombie when I bust rhymes, like Leanne rhymes, because I'm all about value. That one, dude. Yes. Yeah, Bare Naked Ladies. Have you ever seen them live at the CMAC? To us by the lovely CMAC. Maureen, if I had to guess. I think Maureen. And I got to see if you have the same answer as Maureen. So if let's just say Canandaigua has like a public pool and you're on the medium dive board, are you coming at us with the cannonball pencil or a nice swan dive?
I'm probably coming to you with a belly flop. I don't think I'm that coordinated for any of that.
Okay.
Yes. Finally, somebody gives us that answer. Yes.
We've been waiting for that.
Yeah, that means you're not a perfectionist, right? You're able to show that other side of you, that you're not afraid of judgment or expectations. I love that. If you were to craft a bumper sticker, and I know like some of us, we like to put our whole family lineage and maybe our sports teams on the back of our vehicles, just so the world knows a little bit more about us. But if you had to put out a quote, maybe your heartbeat or your daily intention, Rhonda, what bumper sticker are you designing?
Wow, it's got to be something about kindness, and whatever would fit on a bumper sticker that you wouldn't have to squint to read all the words. But I feel like we talk about this in the customer service world with our members all the time. Kindness can take you so far. So something like that with a decent font that we're not causing an accident reading.
So they don't have to squint to read it. All right. Something about kindness.
Not a lot of Bare Naked Ladies lyrics then. I can't get 1 week out of my head, by the way, as we're speaking.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It's been a while since I heard that song, but I like that you printed out the lyrics so you could actually understand what was being said, Ty.
So also, I'll just add a fun fact is I just recently realized BNL has some kids songs that they've put out, and I am a mom of a pandemic baby. And so the toddler songs all of a sudden popped up on my BNL station. I'm so excited. Now it's everyday rotation.
Are we talking like kids bop versions? Is it just?
No, wow. I'm talking like the nursery rhymes, or like the song like 789 is my daughter's favorite. So 789 is what they're singing about. Yes.
Wow. All right. What, I have a pandemic baby and so does Tyler. So I can't wait to jump into this. I did not
Yes.
know. Wow.
Okay, so we got the belly flop. I can't stop thinking about bare naked ladies since you brought them up. So we know you like a good chicken sandwich with some mayo and lettuce on there. What is something that your team does not know about you that they're about to find out right now?
Wow, that my team does not know about me. You know, I'm a pretty transparent leader, but probably most of our members don't know that I spent some time traveling with Martin Luther King's son in my career around the world doing some mission-based work about nonviolence. And so I think my team knows that, but I bet you that a lot of our members don't know that Martin III and I had some time in some really post-conflict situations when I was starting out of my career.
All right, timeout. We gotta
Yeah, we
dive
gotta
into
talk
this a
about
little
this.
bit more. Yeah, please. Like, tell us what was the guy like? What did you learn? When was this in your life? Where were you doing this work? It sounds like globally.
As we could zoom in on my gray hair, it was probably like 22 years ago at this point. But so yeah, I lived in Washington, D.C. for my graduate program. I went to American University, and we were at that time really looking at international relations, and American University had a spin-off program for women in politics, and I was a part of that. And so just in the nature of the nation's capital, you get into different circles and conversations. And Martin III had an organization for a short period of time, I believe, maybe under 5 years, called Realizing the Dream. And so it was going into other countries, and especially working with youth programs and community leaders about Kingian nonviolence. And so how do we modernize that conversation, and especially with different cultural barriers and practices? And so I learned a lot. He was actually a lot more soft-spoken than you would imagine, but an amazing orator like his father when we had those stage moments when he was speaking. But the work that we were doing was incredible. Of course, lifelong. I just visited a zoo this weekend with my kiddo, and in my time with Realizing the Dream, we were in Africa, and I remember one of the afternoons we had to ourselves. We went to see some baby elephants that were being raised at a place that had saved them, where there were a lot of fires and bushfires that had caught most of some acreage. And we were just talking about it this past weekend, and that was probably why it was top of mind. I was able to be right there, you know, putting mud on baby elephants and making sure that they were having a fun playtime. So it was really cool kind of sharing that story with my toddler about, yeah, I actually got to take care of some baby elephants a long time ago.
I got a question. I mean, with all that perspective, you know, traveling the world with Martin Luther King's son, and just other people, you know, moved by the same mission. What was one of the things you gained through perspective that you have never forgotten and have carried forward since that time?
You know, I grew up in upstate New York, and happy to be back for the last decade from Washington. And it really just allowed me to grow as a human of, there's more than just outside of our borders of the United States. And what are we dealing with that is common? And what are we dealing with that I would have had no idea about growing up in upstate New York? And, you know, even before the verbiage has grown to be well known about privilege, I mean, that was something I learned as soon as we had our first meeting. I mean, that was because you had to prepare a lot before these trips. And so that was something I have never forgotten. And of course, always dear to me, as we're just enjoying some elephants at the zoo. And this conversation, of course, comes out of remembering how that hit my heart of all of that work. So, yeah.
I love what you just said, though. I mean, it is your perspective, and privilege is something that it's kind of a comparison, right? But if I don't have anything to compare it to or against, I don't always see it as a privilege, right? It's just my expectation that everybody has the same perspective of the world. And I think we don't realize how self-centered we ultimately are, even though we're trying to be these givers, right? And these doers and do through acts or acts of service, right? Or gratitude. But what you just said is so profound until you went to see or gain that perspective. You didn't even realize what a privilege really was, or
Yeah.
that difference. That's really cool.
Dude, and talking about dreamers, right? Like no pun intended here. I think, Kevin and I have been asking a lot of guests recently. It seems like when we were kids in middle school, junior high, we had dreams, and it seems like the data has shown with me and my older friends now, not many people are dreaming anymore.
Yeah.
How do you keep that dream alive now that we're, older? Bringing that inner kid out in you still, I don't think is a bad deal. How do you keep that up? Because you're apparently doing it, Rhonda.
Well, it's so interesting that you put it in that perspective, because one thing that our staff, so we're a small staff of 3, we say we never want to be a dream crusher when we're supporting these small businesses coming in. We want to be realistic. We want to make sure they're in a path of potential and opportunity and leading to success. But there are some times where that reality could sound daunting. So we always try to have fun on staff and fun with our members. So I had started, when I had come on board, these member meetups, because we got to keep these dreams alive. We got to keep the fun alive. And it could be very isolating owning a small business. And so coming together as a community of 70 businesses that the commissary oversees, it's realizing that one another are maybe dealing with the same thing. But when we're all having fun together, we're all showing that human side of us. And again, I mean, Rochester is a great place to find many opportunities to go play. And so it's been a really fun experience of getting to know each of our business owners, but how we all are together in community, I think is pretty fun.
Go play. What a line, it's like,
Yeah.
Tyler, how easy does that make the future? It's like, oh, I'm just playing, right? It's just a research project, or I'm just doing an experiment, right? And I'm just gathering these data points. I love what you said, is to keep the dream alive, not a dream crusher, but also building a basic understanding, and making them aware to some of these challenges that maybe going into it blissfully unaware that these could be some of the challenges that you're walking towards. I mean, you're almost like a guide, at that point. But I love what you said, that isolation. We tend to all do that. I know I was guilty of it. I isolated. I'm like, and Tyler and I would have deep conversations, but let's face it, men and most people are kind of, we hide our true selves, right? We dance around it. We have so many layers within our onion, protecting who we authentically are to the general public until we build that trust. But you're so right. So many of us isolate, thinking that we're alone, which is a lonely place to be, for lack of a better term. But it also stunts our opportunities to work through the common challenges, like you mentioned earlier in that other experience. So I just love how you put that, because I think that's, instead of isolating, that's not community. Community is getting out and realizing the similarities and the commonalities that we have, rather than just the differences.
And we've created a space that, even though it sounds large in the sense of 70 businesses, we've created these levels of intimacy because we have different programs, different tracks for our businesses to be a part of and grow their businesses. And in that way, people are coming together who don't know it all. And some of that isolation was, well, I don't want to show people that I don't know how to do something in my business, or I'm embarrassed that I don't know how to get something started, whether it's your financial projections or the right packaging for your good. And so breaking that down of just being a part of this community where either we've all been there, done that, or we're able to learn together with the partners that we have, and other businesses being one of those partners. We have a lot of peer-to-peer help in the kitchen and business planning. I mean, that's the great part of being a part of this incubator and accelerator program. But yes, that isolation, especially during COVID for food and beverage businesses. I mean, you got used to doing things on your own because things were closed down. And now that we've opened back up a little bit, that intimacy needed to be regenerated to be comfortable with one another. And it's not about competition, it's about collaboration in our community. So there might be 10 barbecue sauce members someday, but they're not thinking about it in the way of, well, that slice is mine over here. They're saying, great, what are you learning? What glass bottles are you using? Do you have a better vendor for lids, or is your a hot seal and mine's not? So that type of information, those collisions that happen all the time to be productive in their business, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is have fun with each other, learn from each other. But that isolation, we've tried really hard to break that down.
So cool, you know, and Kevin and I, the leaders, even like coaches growing up, even like the stubborn ones, I would always ask them why do they win all the time? And even the grumpy ones were like, I make it fun. I'm like, that's on your mind? Like drill sergeant, you know?
Right.
Absolutely. And we hear that over and over, Rhonda. And so I want to get us to a place here, like, because I got hit right in the freaking five head when I started my barbecue business up there in the best way. I got all the LLCs and stuff, blah, blah, blahs, the title. And then it was like, okay, I got a decent brisket, you know, and some pulled pork, which was amazing, but that is not enough, right? At all. So what am I looking at day one? I call you, Rhonda, and I'm like, hey, I got this. What does the commissary, like, step one, what does that look like for a business coming in to meet you?
So one thing that we have really orchestrated or curated is an onboarding process that makes sense to be one-on-one, because every business and every business owner is unique. And so yes, we have our checklist that we have to go through for requirements. You know, are you Department of Health? Are you Department of Ag and Markets? Do we have the right permits? Do you have the right insurance? Yes, we could go through all of that with you, but we really want to know, where are you trying to get this business to go? What is that dream? And let's back to the beginning of how the commissary could be helpful. And so with that, each process is really trying to make sure that that business owner knows what they can do, what their resources are, and then we're already pairing them with experts. As you mentioned, Maureen earlier, she's one of our entrepreneurials in residence. So our food experts that give their skill set, of course, hers being amazing marketing and branding. How can she get linked in with this member to help them, even with those beginning stages of what does their logo look like? What does their brand look like? What is the strategy here, that they cannot feel all of those different layers of categories of a new business that you're just trying to figure out. Let's take them bite size, in the same way of, if you want to do a pop-up with your amazing ribs and your pork, we have a staff member that's been in the culinary world that could talk through, how does that look in our performance kitchen? How do you book the right stations in the production kitchen? Let's run through getting that footprint in the kitchen to make sense for you, because it is a shared kitchen. So how do we make sure that that's as smooth as possible? And so we have two staff that literally their desks are right in the kitchen. And so there's member support, there's communication support, there's kitchen support, all right there. Or you need help figuring out a combi oven that maybe you didn't have at home practice time, right? I don't know many people who have combis on their own. That we could train you, walk you through that. We have an industrial dishwasher that, again, most people might not have ever used, or figuring out the right space for sanitizing through a dishwasher process, that we're just there to help. And you didn't have to spend the $10,000 on combi oven to know if that's going to be helpful to you and your product or not. So that's kind of where we start. We try to get everybody's game plan of where they want to head, and then we work backwards.
So
And you let them be creative on their own, because that's what entrepreneurs do. You know, I had no problem with logos, trust me, or sauces like that was. But what I had a problem with was everything you just said.
well, and that's what I was
Yes,
going to
and
ask
what
you,
and
Rhonda.
what does that cost of goods really mean at the end of the day? You know, it sounds great. Or are you buying in bulk? Can you buy in bulk? Can you buy local? I mean, so many of our local businesses want to buy local. Sometimes that is cost prohibitive. So we can lean in as the commissary to help partner with those cost points. And there's probably 3 other members that need the whole thing too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's what I was going to ask you when you're asking the dreamers, right? Society has a way of crushing all dreams in some ways, right? When you're dealing with other people that aren't that visionary, right? Or they're not willing to take that risk, and they operate under a sense of fear, casting doubt or shade on others' dreams. Have you noticed a common theme though with the entrepreneurs during these one-on-ones, that they have such a clear vision of what they want to do? Like when you ask that dreaming question, right? Because I've been asked that question before too, and you really struggle to really put it all together. Sometimes you don't have a succinct, couple catchphrases or a couple words that really tell you what your ultimate vision or your dream is. But I think food is one of those things that we all can get behind, just like music, and it has this ability to bring people together. If you were to say the common theme from all these dreamers that you're talking through, is it that they feel like their passion and their purpose is to see the faces on those that are eating their food? Like, why are they motivated to do what they do? Because
So,
restaurants is not an easy life. I worked in one. We have great family friends that own them. It is a challenging job, but what would you say the common theme is from all the dreamers that you have now met with, Rhonda?
so it definitely is perspective of the time that needs to go into before you can even get to that pop-up where you're seeing all those smiling faces because they love what you're producing and they love the complex flavors that you put together. How can we really say, these are the baby steps that you might need to get to, because they're used to absolutely serving their friends and family, that the praise is there, they get to experience. Food is part of everyone's culture, and it is how we communicate in so many ways, as we know from the beginning of time. So for me, it's spending the time to work on your business and make sure that we're not trying to speed up so fast, where then trouble could be. As we know, Rochester has wonderful, wonderful events, especially this season. Those ticket prices to get a vendor spot are pretty high. And just rolling into one of those, you have the cost of your goods, the cost of the event, transportation, your gas for your generator, if you're on a food truck, etc. Really spelling that out, because yes, we always want to think of that end game of, I can't wait. My face is going to be on that food truck window. There's going to be a line as far as I can see. But what is that upfront cost looking like? And then we also know it's upstate New York. So is the weather going to cooperate that day? So we've put our eggs in one basket and we're hoping for this beautiful weather that brings everybody out. And so that piece is really the commonality of ideas and creativity and recipes are never a question. We don't have a member business that I would not want to eat or drink their beverage right now, hands down, every day, till the day I die. That's not the issue. The issue is, how can we make a strategy that is at a time frame that's comfortable for them, and then it's also realistic. And we have a lot of members, and I am a previous food truck owner myself. And so I know what these conversations are like in the mirror when you get ready in the morning to say, I got this. And then it's a day that the rain just isn't stopping and the customers aren't coming. And it takes a long time to get that thick skin and then that thick bank account that could actually absorb a bad weather day in a big event, or your cost of goods just got higher, because post-pandemic packaging prices fluctuate very quickly. Cost of produce fluctuates very quickly. So making sure that we're really just as honest as we can, but it does take that on the ground experience too, because we can coach. I know personally, there was a few events that I was like, we got to take this chance. We got to do it. And when it pays off, awesome. But on those bad days, we knew that we would be okay, that it was the experience that we were willing to take the risk for. And owning small businesses, and then you're layering food and beverage on top of that. I'm sure you guys talk to many people in this field that say, this might be the riskiest business you could get into, right? So you got to just be prepared. And it's a family recipe, but it's also, this is time that your family's going to be helping you or working with you, but it's also time that you're going to be away from your family when you are running your small business. And so many people, this is something that they try to do as a second or third job for a long time until they can launch it themselves. So making sure that all of that risk is got support. And that's exactly what we're about, is how can we continue to support that chain to success?
And it's not just risk. I also hear like the camaraderie of the commissary, right? Or the commissary, you know, like how you're saying, like that rainy day, if it was just you, who the heck do you have to go to vent to, you know? And then you're getting into your own head. You're probably casting doubt on your own abilities and controlling. And this is what I've had, that serenity prayer, you know, we've said so many times, but in the restaurant industry, you probably have to keep reminding them to control what they can control, you know, to bring them back to center, because there's going to be some things that is totally out of their control, and they can start to probably go down a path where they're blaming themselves. And I just love where you're kind of creating this roadmap, you know, telling them, hey, change can be scary, and these things can be scary, but this is how we make more of the unknowns known, so you know what you're getting into. Because just like anything, anybody could look at you and say, I could do a better job than Rhonda at that job, right? And no different than what people are saying about the food. Oh, if I owned a restaurant, I would do these things. But I love, like you're saying, the camaraderie that comes with the 70 different businesses. They're really there to lift each other up and to provide that motivation to help them keep dreaming.
Yes. And that they support each other in the way of actual revenue too, because not only are they grabbing lunch from one another, it's also they're using each other's products in what they're creating. So I'll use the example of one of our coffee roasters. Dennis is the owner of Legendary Beans. He has very specialty lattes on his menu. We have a food and product producer who creates ghee. So Ashna, the owner that has 3 different kinds of ghee, Dennis is using one of the ghees in a maple, garlic, and original.
Like the healthy butter?
Yes. Yeah.
Woo.
Yep. Family recipe passed down. And so Dennis is using a ghee in a latte, as you see a lot of the new trends of drinking oil or having some layer of fat in your coffee. And that's amazing. We have a chocolatier that has a premium chocolate sauce. That's what Dennis's mocha lattes are made from. So you also have that way of support mentally and that camaraderie, but then you also have real tangible support when it comes to making sure that they're supporting financially one another too. So that piece is incredible to see. Folks that had not known each other, had not crossed paths, but because they're both members of the commissary, met up at an event or an education program or a member meetup, and there they are now, the best of food friends. And it was because of this community.
Dude, I'll never forget, Rhonda. And there's something special. I'm sure I wanted to ask you if you've ever seen this on someone's faces. Like, I'll never forget. I was at a food truck rodeo up there. I had my business was called Woo Pig Barbecue, and I was nervous as heck. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And I had like smokers behind my tables, just smoking pecan wood, because like you Northerners were like, he's smoking stuff on site. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you have no idea what the past 20 hours of my life have looked like. And I was like 29, so I had some gears in me, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was across from Rob Kebabs, and this lady could not figure out for the life of her what was going on at my truck or my station. And when that first debit card got swiped on my square for my $11 pulled pork sandwich, I was like, oh my goodness, it's happening. But like you said earlier, I did not have a 5-year plan at all. Like my books were just like, let's just survive today. Do you get to experience that excitement when people walk through the door and they like swipe their first card for their whatever ghee sandwich soup? Have you seen that multiple times?
I have been lucky enough that yes, we have been able to get some people really off the ground. But I would say what has been fascinating on both sides, if they are a caterer or one of our amazing members of what we call Commissary Cravings, which is our market opportunity for products, is they're seeing their spices or their sauces bottled and labeled for the first time, or they're going through a rebrand and they're opening up that bottle and they're doing we have experts that also take product shots, food photos, all of that. And so they're seeing these things come through. And then, yes, we have helped members and really supported them on the ground of getting their first pop-up tent and tables ready and making sure that they're best foot forward and going to pass that Department of Health inspection on the way through. And yes, as folks walk through the shared kitchen, seeing the beautiful commercial pieces of equipment, I feel like you really do go back in time of visiting Santa Claus at a mall or something. I mean, it really is like folks want to get right in and starry-eyed. And so, yeah, we do a lot of equipment training so folks can take advantage of these amazing pieces of equipment that a lot of wonderful people have donated to. Obviously, we've received lots of grant funding. So making sure that we're giving that use, it's proper,
How cool of a job
hours
that
in the
is.
kitchen.
I mean,
And so, yeah, we have been very, very lucky to be on that first kind of step for many of our members. But that idea of getting a finished product together, and then our micro market is self-serve, so that their families coming in and scanning the UPC and paying via credit card, it's magic. It's magic. Yeah.
I hear that you get to play Oprah every day then, it's like you come in with these dreamers and then you help them make it a dream more tangible. And I mean, just
oh my gosh,
how cool is that?
our support is so vast. Our circle of support for each of these members. Oh yeah, I am proud to say we probably have those 40 Oprahs that are just like, yeah, we're playing a role here. This is amazing.
So cool. What is the most rewarding part about your job?
I would say getting to know all of the members has been the most rewarding. We did a first ever Food Biz 101 program in Q1 of this year, and we had 12 participants, and 12 participants go through twice a week, very rigorous training, getting them up and going, getting them to that next stage. And it was a diverse level of experience or years in their food business of these 12. And what we were able to do is get them through a business model canvas, which is very similar idea of a business plan, but very digestible. And you're really able to speak to your business in a very proactive way for investors or presentations. And then at the end, because it is so rigorous in this 10-week condensed program, upon graduation, you get incentive dollars. That was an amazing program through the COVID dollars that the city of Rochester supported for the commissary. And each participant of Food Biz 101 got a decent amount of incentive dollars to reach that next goal. So if they needed a new coffee grinder that was a little outside of their personal budget or what they've been able to do as a small business, this was able to get them to get that bigger piece of equipment to grind coffee beans, to grow and scale in a quicker time frame. Because the other, big piece of this is our kitchen is by the hour. So if they could do bigger productions in that hour that they're paying for, what a win-win. So it's really quite fascinating. So the most remarkable thing since I've been here, I would say, is getting to know each of the members as people, as the owners behind the brand. And then a tangible program was Food Biz 101, the first cohort. And the commissary does plan on doing that again in Q1 of 2025.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Like I think in my experience and others that I've met very recently, somehow the owner's story really sells the food. You know, like I remember smoking briskets and pork butts for my friends on college Saturdays, football, you know, because I'm a weirdo Arkansas Razorback. And then I would scratch my head on Sunday, like, what am I going to eat today? And they would bring over their Granny's like Sunday sauce. You know, at first I was like, I'm just going to drink sauce, you know, but it was so family oriented, you know. And I kid you not, I was just at the Raising Cane's headquarters a couple of weeks ago. And the guy wrote, he was at the University of Georgia and got a C- on his business plan. And he's opening up 100 stores a year now. And I really think that was hit people in the face, like, well, his story. He was a grinder. He was catching salmon in Alaska to blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I'm just going to make one thing really good and have an awesome sauce. And just to see the backing of that. You know, it could even be mediocre sometimes. But, dude, if you almost failed a test at Georgia and this is what you're doing, man, I'm going to keep coming back. Have you see a lot of stories like that where people fall in love with the person and the food is almost secondary?
All the time. So what we say when we set up our member supported public market stalls or events, people need to come and be the face of that. We absolutely can talk about it, but they will remember you. And that's what I try to do with all press things that I do is, okay, great. We could talk as staff, but they want to know you. They will remember you and your story. They'll come looking for you at the next event. And so whenever we do something that is showcasing our member products, we always line up members to come and sample and come and tell their story. And we know as humans, which I am sure Maureen would speak more eloquently about this, but the storytelling component, that if you can really get that pitch sounding like a personal conversation, that makes all the difference in the world. And there's even a member of ours just this week, there's a pitch for a certain dollar amount from a university here. And one of our members we've been supporting, along with many other supporting coaches here in Rochester, that they are pitching for $25,000. And they're our member who has been a part of this really boot camp scenario of how do we tell our story about our food and ourselves in a short period of time, just like, as we know, the customers will walk by your tent slowly, walk by your barbecue tent slowly. How are you going to get them in that way very quickly and effectively? And that is the personality and that story combined. And yes, we're very lucky to say then the food is awesome or the beverage is awesome, but that's not what got that sale. Yeah.
And I think just celebrating, like you said, the diversity, you know, it's not like you're trying to go out there and convince everybody to make chicken the same way. You know, you're celebrating that diversity, that uniqueness, but also then seeing the benefits of creating an ecosystem where it's like a true community or sense of community where you're supporting one another. How many people struggle to believe that their story actually matters? I mean, you probably do a lot of that convincing where it's like, hey, are you aware that your story is something that everybody else needs to hear? Because there's some people that have just internalized it so much that they don't realize that it's a motivational factor for a buyer to choose you over somebody else. Do you feel in some cases you're kind of pulling that story out and getting people out of their shell or comfort zone?
Yes, I do. I also let them know that I'm cheating because my master's degree is in public communication. So when they see me talking to folks, they're like, yeah, but I don't sound like you. I get it. I'm cheating and paid way too much money to learn these skills. So let me help you and coach you to do that. And so in that way, I do have members that it might be just a communication style that is not theirs to talk to strangers, right? That's essentially what's happening. And so coaching and practice allows them to do that. And being able to talk about their food, these foodpreneurs that we work with are so passionate that once you kind of get them going on that part, they would much rather talk about, here's how I roast those awesome peppers for my red pepper hummus versus here was what I was doing and how I got here. And so we work through that too with member spotlights that we have our EIRs help with, and then also with packaging, because if it's just on a shelf and we're not there and you're not there, making sure that some part of their story is on their packaging as well. And so that is very creative conversations around what does it look like when you're not there? What's the look and feel of your product? But when you are there, let's make sure they're trying it or smelling it. And then let's be talking through that 30-second story. And if they stay engaged, then there's that second tier of information of where they can get it, where they can buy it after today, where they could find you. And so that part is all practice. And our staff loves to stop by any of our sponsored markets, any of our supported markets, because we can help them kind of craft additional information or help them if they, have that moment when they're just not used to being the face of their own product, that we could do that with them a few times so that they can get more comfortable.
I love how you're kind of saying like you are this like motivator. You're right, and what a cool position to be. You can breathe some, I guess, seeing the potential in them, and some of these individuals. I mean, having somebody else believe in them is probably all they need in order to take off, But that's got to be a pretty cool position. What was like one of the greatest lessons you had to learn? I mean, reporting to 70 different micro CEOs, and you're there to support them. What was one of the greatest lessons that you had to learn over your time as a leader?
It's interesting because when I first was interviewing for this role, of course, I had the previous food truck and catering business with my wife, and she was the chef, and I was helping and supporting everything else. Of course, it was a joint venture, but she went to culinary school, and I was just writing speeches for a living, right? And so talking about food in a way that was very chefy was something that I myself was like, yeah, I could sell what we were doing on the food truck, and I was the person on the window, and I was talking to customers. But when it comes to talking to our members about building out those layers of flavor and really getting in there, I'm very privileged that I'm married to a chef, that I don't have to spend a lot of time in our own kitchen, right? So that part was an awesome learning experience that I could say, I've been there, I've done that, but also I could taste your food, and I'm happy to at any point be a taste tester, right? I always say, we have people on staff that this has been their whole amazing career, is those recipes and developing those flavors. That part wasn't what I was doing in our business, but we have those support. But I could just be that example of a regular old customer coming to you that doesn't know anything about how many ounces are in a cup. I mean, this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. So they loved that part of that I could not know everything as a leader. Mm-hmm. And as you guys know, so much changes in regulation of everything, including food and beverage. That's a continuous learning cycle. So we so many times have sat down with members to say, we need to double check this, or we need to call Department of Health about A, B, and C. And so being human did not go in knowing everything. It's almost more of a trusted leader in that way, because you're transparent. You're saying, you know what, I'm not sure. I know that code changed in the city of Rochester last year. Let's give them a ring. Let's call the city clerk. All of that to be there with them to support, but also the next week when they don't know something, they're not feeling bad about it. It's just, let's connect to the resources. Mm-hmm. So that level of leadership, again, I use humor as a way to get to that, to say, oh yeah, I love food and beverage. Who doesn't? But I'm not going to know all those nitty gritty questions on the food and beverage side. Mm-hmm. So it's been pretty fascinating.
I love how you put it, because I think it's so important that you've been there, done that, and then that makes people like, oh, we're coming from a place of commonality or similarity, and I know Tyler and I have had deep conversations about that in the healing journey, but I don't really take a lot of people's advice that just tells me all the successes that they have. It's like I'm not holy enough. I'm doing something wrong. Maybe it is me, but when people are willing to share those failures, right? We thought this and we failed greatly. It's like, great. Now I don't feel so ashamed by presenting all my fears to you. And help me work through these fears. Are these legit, or are these just me getting in my own head? So I loved how you really put that.
I was just thinking over here, how fun is it to be working in food, Rhonda? Like, I got in trouble with my wife the other day because I caught a mistake on a corporate like Mediterranean menu, you know, from Cava. You know, I was sitting there, I was looking at the menu, and I was like, this is, I think there was like a spicy, I can't even remember what it was, cucumber or something. And they were like, and I was like, but is this one spicy over here? And they were like, yeah. And they were like, dude, no one's ever caught that in their life. You know, the attention to detail I can put into food is, I don't even know why. It's just this like level of dialed inness goes way up. And I can only imagine how, you know, and yourself having a food truck, you know, in your life. But I was just wanting to comment on how amazing it is to work with, and same with Maureen. I was like, you get to make these companies come to life, and you know, I'm not saying anything else doesn't matter, but I mean, you talk about food. I can dial into, you know, I could go throw on Chef's Table, you know, on Netflix and just watch the same episodes over and over.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I don't know what's coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'd have to say, you know, it is different than the Food Network because everybody sees all these fun shows and we love watching them for entertainment. And that's something that we reference all the time, that's all fun for all of us to watch, but there's a lot of hours that you don't see. There's a lot of cutouts that you don't see. But yeah, I feel like all of those components put together has allowed me to also speak like some really valid things into our community because we did decide to sell our food truck during the pandemic. I was super busy, super pregnant, and we didn't know what the heck was going on with the world, right? And so that lesson in itself, being able to share with our members, because what I didn't want the narrative to be is that, oh, but you still don't own your food business. I wanted the narrative to be what was actually the truth on the ground is sometimes you need to make those really hard decisions about selling or not moving forward or being acquired, whatever that is, that's really tough because you've put your heart, your soul, your community into it. But if that's not working at the end of the day, or if it's too much of a high risk, and I also share the story that the commissary did not exist when I was making these decisions. We had our food operation in Ontario County. It was prior to the commissary opening up. And maybe if there was a resource like that for me to start thinking about, start not feeling so isolated about, my heart says I still would have made the same decision, but I would have had more resources and more information behind me to do that. And so there are times where it just makes the best sense to either sell or close. Nobody loves to talk about that side of the story, but it's better than you getting into really significant debt or worse things down the line to say, yes, we hope that this dream continues on the path of success. But if it doesn't, or if it no longer fits you, because there's numerous small businesses that I've seen get sold and still be successful, and you still see that, and that's amazing. But that part in itself of just saying, I'm going to tell you my story that looks like, yes, we had amazing Buffalo themed foods in upstate New York that people outside of Buffalo didn't really know too much about. But it was something that we were able to say to ourselves, this is our first kiddo. It's a global pandemic. Don't really know where we're headed. And is this the right time to either expand or sell? And it was early enough before things got kind of no customers or no income coming in that we were able to make those decisions. So it wasn't out of desperation at that point, which I know I talked to a lot of our members about of, you know, before we get to the level of desperation, let's have a plan in place. And those are hard conversations because, again, nobody wants to think about those failures, as you said, Kevin. Like, it's just...
It's a balance, right? Because you don't want to crush their dreams at the same time.
Right.
You also want to make them actively aware of what they're actually getting into, because I loved how you said it. I think a lot of people have this, they look at success or they see the outcome of success and they want to copy it, right? And they want to copy and paste it in their own life, but they fail to realize how many extra hours were going in or what that person was having to give up in order to get to that dream. And I love how you're kind of making more of the unknowns known, but also not isolation. And I love that you use that word, isolation, social isolation of itself is like smoking 16 cigarettes a day, so there's already enough stresses with owning your own business and the unpredictability of the future and also understanding what's in your control and what's out of your control. And like you shared, the commissary started in October of 2020, right? So, I mean, how full circle have you seen where people are now coming around to the idea of opening a restaurant? I mean, that's a lot of trauma in a space where, to your point, that's the old proverb. Don't get into, if you want to be rich or you don't think that you're going to get rich opening a restaurant, right? That's always been the conversation because it is the love, the passion for the food, the connection that people can make over breaking bread. And that's one of the greatest joys I had as a waiter. I always looked at my job as a waiter was to create a positive experience around food that this family had for the first time, maybe ever. So it's really, really exciting to hear how you've kind of stepped into it and been on this journey. But to your point, there is a balance to crushing someone's dreams and also not scaring them away from, hey, did you know all these other things? How have you found that balance, just out of curiosity?
Really, it comes from spending time of working on your business. And so this saying is all around. This is not unique to the commissary, but in small business, you have to work on your business as much as for your business. So you might be the person at the table with the smokers behind you, but then you also need to be present in working on your business. So making sure that those credit card receipts get into your Excel spreadsheet or your QuickBooks or whatever you use, right? Like just those things that, if you did them every day or you did them every week working on your business, less of a headache, especially on the financial pieces. And so having that coaching. So we really do preach here. You have to have the time blocked out to work on your business, in addition to working for your business as you're out and about selling your products, selling your sauces, or having your pop-ups. That's really critical. And that can be very tough in the season of, these outside events. And so there's these ebbs and flows of when that might work. We talk about strategies that are time savers all the time. For example, Maureen and her team, it's such a great thing in technology that your social media can be scheduled out. So spending 1/2 an hour on your social media could get you through the next 2 weeks because you're able to schedule it all out instead of worrying about it every day. Have I done enough? Am I getting enough exposure? What am I using? So that those pieces of technology, of course, are helpful, but that's the balance, working on your business and working for your business.
I love that for every leader that listens to our show, any individual, that's a big difference between those two. And like you said, it's almost preparing for this season of unpredictability because it's going to be unpredictable. So how do we prepare? How do we kind of already make those pre-decisions necessary when we are in the face of adversity or difficulty or a challenge? So I'm Ty, I'll let you close this up, but thank you so much. I think this is so cool. We've seen the incubators from a business perspective. We've never seen it for restaurants. And that the first time that I learned about it was going and getting a tour through Leadership Rochester. And I just thought, this is so cool because I've talked to Tyler, right? And I've talked to other people that food is really something that they're passionate about, but they had no idea where to start, and instead of killing somebody's dreams because we don't make it easy for them to find these tools that exist, I love how you said it. You're weaving dreams all the time. So what a cool thing to do, Rhonda. And I just thank you for today's conversation.
Yeah, guys, I think we're leaving on a good note right here. I'm having flashbacks of starting when that happened. And if Rhonda existed, then I would have signed up so quick, y'all. I'm 88 pages thick in this health report over here. I still don't know what I'm doing. AI didn't exist. It was like me and me, and with zero background, but I had a dream. And I think it's really cool, Rhonda, that you like let people be creative and do what they're great at and have that vision. And sort of talk about distribution, like we don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
I heard Elon Musk the other day talking about, he's sending rockets to the freaking moon, but he's like, please let's not talk about distribution. Like, it's like, even he can't figure this stuff out. He's like, there should be a movie on distribution. And I was like, yo, tell me about it. I'm in my kitchen making up these Asian barbecue sauces or whatever it is, and it's like, you could do good with what you can make one. But how do you make 1,000 every month, And,
Yes.
and I think that's where the crutch really fell for me, at least. Just hearing what you're doing with people, just makes me breathe deep.
Well, thank you both. This has been amazing. I feel like we have built a community just in an hour here with us three, because it's so great to be able to talk shop, but also have fun, be entertained as we're listening, because it is some really hard stuff that you got to go through as a small business and as a leader of these small businesses. It's a tough gig, and to be able to talk about it in really interesting, fun ways when we could still get to the bones of challenge, I think is so important. And I think you all were able to do that today. And I really appreciate that, and giving us the voice as the Rochester Commissary, spreading it even further.